Guys, the things you're about to hear are drawn from federal court records, sworn testimony. This information is gathered from so many different resources that we will list in description below. Tensions between Tupac Shakur and Sean Diddy Combs were never just about business. What started as industry competition slowly spiraled into something darker, something far more personal. According to newly surfaced legal documents and witness claims, Diddy wasn't just threatened by Tupac's success, he was consumed by it. As Tupac's influence skyrocketed and his charisma captivated the world, a new friendship began forming between Pac and the notorious B.I.G. A friendship that, by all accounts, didn't sit well with Diddy. Sources close to the situation allege that Diddy became increasingly insecure, especially as he watched Tupac grow into a cultural icon while commanding respect from every corner of the industry. Behind the scenes, whispers began circulating that Diddy's jealousy was turning into frustration and eventually into reckless behavior. People close to the situation now claim that Diddy, feeling overshadowed and sidelined, contributed to what they describe as a dangerous environment within the hip-hop world. And then things got even stranger. Just days before Tupac's murder in Las Vegas, reports claim that Diddy arranged for multiple rental vehicles, cars that were handed off to a group of men from Harlem. These men allegedly traveled cross-country in a caravan to Nevada. Now, on paper, this convoy had no official ties to Bad Boy Records. But the timing, the secrecy, the context, let's just say, nothing about it feels random. Meanwhile, in a shocking twist, Dwayne Keefe D. Davis is now awaiting trial, charged in connection with Tupac's murder. And here's where it gets even more tangled. Court filings suggest that Diddy may have offered Davis a $1 million payment in connection to the murder. But something went wrong. The payment reportedly never came through as expected, and the deal, whatever it really was, fell apart. But that's not where the controversy ends. Suge Knight, co-founder of Death Row Records and the man who was in the car with Tupac the night he died, recently dropped a bombshell of his own. In a recent interview, Suge accused none other than Snoop Dogg of playing a role in Tupac's death. He claimed that singer Ray J told him directly that Snoop once admitted to being involved. Of course, Snoop clapped back instantly, writing in the comments of a social media post, "This man won't stop talking about me, mad 'cause I own Death Row." Because in 2022, Snoop bought the very label Suge co-founded, Death Row Records. Coincidence? Petty revenge? Or a deeper truth hiding in plain sight? Whatever it is, this story isn't over. In the middle of a criminal trial that threatens to dismantle one of hip-hop's most powerful empires, something strange happened. Tupac's voice echoed through the courtroom, not through his music, not through a documentary, but from an unreleased tape, hidden since 1996, and now playing in a federal court building in 2025. A voice once dismissed as paranoid, now being treated as prophecy. Because what Tupac said in that lost interview may be the key to unraveling the machine Diddy spent decades building. Diddy's trial started with names the public already associates with glitz and fame. Usher, Nayo, Jimmy Iovine. According to testimony from Don Richard, a former member of Danity Kane, these high-profile figures weren't just industry connections. They were present at a very specific dinner in West Hollywood back in 2010. Richard recalled the event vividly. A dinner where bright lights, fame, and influence gathered at one table. But something strange allegedly took place that night. While she stopped short of claiming anyone intervened, she firmly stated who she saw there. Usher and Diddy, of course, have a long history. Usher even lived with him during the early days of his career. Nayo, a frequent name on awards ballots, had also been seen in his company over the years. And Jimmy Iovine, one of the most influential producers in modern music. Their presence at this dinner may seem like another night in Hollywood. But what makes it matter is what was described happening behind the glitter. Then came the pill, a pink tablet imprinted with the face of a former US president. David James, Diddy's former assistant, didn't seem rattled when he spoke about it. He said he was often tasked with picking up packages for his employer, no ordinary errands. On one occasion, he said, Diddy took that very pill with Obama's face pressed into the surface. That was just one piece. When federal agents raided Diddy's Miami mansion in early 2024, they weren't met with confusion. They found what they were looking for. Dozens of images were entered into evidence, showing what looked like designer bags holding rows of small baggies and pill clusters. Pink, white, blue, orange, round tablets organized in plastic. A rolled up $100 bill was found nearby, along with a tiny container labeled DBL Wash. What was striking wasn't just the appearance of this evidence, but the volume. Multiple varieties, all stored together. Prosecutors said the images helped form part of a pattern, one of habits, routines, and a carefully orchestrated lifestyle that blurred the lines between personal choices and public responsibilities. Cassie Ventura, one of the central witnesses, described recurring events. These weren't ordinary get-togethers. They involved hand-picked guests, controlled environments, and specific substances. Cassie said these events became a routine, a ritual even, a place where outside rules no longer applied. She wasn't the only one who described them that way. Other testimonies referenced what Cassie called freak-offs. Long nights with extravagant decor, hired participants, and a clear set of expectations. People close to the scene said she often seemed out of it, not quite fully present. And yet, these nights weren't hidden. They happened in well-known locations, private rooms, penthouse suites, even high-end hotels. There was a certain confidence in how these gatherings were planned, as if everyone expected they'd remain unseen by the world outside. This is where prosecutors are trying to make their most critical point, that what looked like indulgence was actually control, that what seemed like freedom was possibly a framework. Through testimony and photos, they're building a picture of consistency, of routines shaped by power, access, and influence, the repeated use of substances, the exact type of parties, the timing, the number of assistants and staff involved. They say it's no longer about a single person living recklessly. It's about something structured, something with rules, players, and consequences. But the defense says otherwise. They argue that everyone involved was a willing participant, that nothing here proves a plan or a system, that fame attracts many things and people, and that it's not a crime to live in excess. Then came the strangest part, the names you'd never expect in a music mogul's court case. Barack Obama, Bill Clinton, Donald Trump, none are being accused of anything. But they came up nonetheless. And when they did, they raised eyebrows everywhere. Clinton's name was invoked by a male participant in one of Diddy's gatherings, nicknamed the Punisher. He said when marijuana was passed around, he mimicked Clinton's famous line from the 90s, "I didn't inhale." Obama's name had already been tied to the pill. But the mention of Trump, that came when another assistant testified that Diddy often stayed at the Trump International Hotel in New York. Not only that, he booked it under the alias Frank Black, a nod apparently to Frank White, the moniker of the late notorious B.I.G. Why does this matter? It adds a surreal layer. These aren't just parties. They're tied to high-end locations, familiar names, and cultural echoes. It reminds the jury that this case isn't in a vacuum. It's connected to something much bigger. Then came a story so strange it felt scripted. The Punisher described a night at the Trump Hotel, a gathering where Diddy allegedly entered the room wearing only one item, a hijab. In one hand, he held a bottle of lubricant that has come up repeatedly throughout this case. There were no cameras, only testimony. But the image stuck. It was odd, theatrical, and symbolic. And it reinforced what others had been saying. These weren't impulsive moments. They were staged, repeated, refined. Then there's Kid Cudi, known offstage as Scott Mescudi. He walked into court in a leather jacket, cigarette in hand, calm, controlled. But what he described was anything but. In 2011, Diddy allegedly found out that Cassie had been seeing Cudi. A year later, Cudi's Porsche caught fire. Not just any fire, pictures shown to the jury revealed a gaping hole in the roof of the car. It looked intentional. The timing, the circumstances, the emotions, none of it felt accidental. Prosecutors are using this to show how far things went when Diddy felt slighted. They're painting a picture not of heartbreak, but retaliation. The hardest thing in this case isn't proving Diddy lived wildly. Everyone knows that. The challenge is proving there was an organized effort, a network, something planned, something that qualifies as more than just chaos. That's why witnesses like David James, the assistant, are so important. He said he didn't just see things, he facilitated them, picked up substances, booked hotels, made calls. This kind of testimony builds the case that Diddy wasn't acting alone, that there were people helping, and that he was the one calling the shots. But the defense is fighting hard. They say the parties were private, the relationships personal, the decisions mutual. To the jury, it comes down to this. Was Diddy just a rich man who partied too hard? Or was there something more? This isn't just about what happened in back rooms and luxury hotels. It's about power, influence, boundaries. And when a man holds that much sway over friends, over fans, over employees, what happens when no one says no? The jury won't just decide Diddy's future. They'll decide whether fame can hide the truth, or if in the end, it always finds the light. Don't forget to subscribe for exclusive updates and deeper dives as this trial unfolds. New content drops regularly. Stay in the loop.